As a kid, all a nigga wanna have was a Burberry scarf and $3 in my pocket. Instead I got beat with a switch, but I don't give a fuck, but it's on my body. Scars all up on me, but I run around from everybody. Life lesson learned, I better learn from this bitch, nobody. She pushed me around, she didn't give no motherfucks about it. She broke my heart 3 times, but I ain't getting...
The Houston Texans are going to be at home hosting the visiting Baltimore Ravens. Now, last week, the Baltimore Ravens steamrolled the Cleveland Browns 38-6. And the Houston Texans lost to the Kansas City Chiefs 34-20. And for the Houston Texans, man, they didn't look good against Kansas City. I mean, the offensive line still looks the same. The offensive line hasn't improved one bit. They gave up 4 sacks against Kansas City. And if we're being honest, if it wasn't for Deshaun Watson's athleticism and ability to extend plays, he probably got sacked a lot more times. So the offensive line hasn't improved one bit. The offense, the wide receiver position, aside from Will Fuller, you don't really have anything there, really. You had a lot of drop passes. It just wasn't really good. The only positive from Houston's performance on offense against Kansas City Chiefs was David Johnson. David Johnson looked really good. And if the Texans want to win this game against the Baltimore Ravens, David Johnson needs at least 25 to 30 touches in this game. It doesn't matter if he's running the football, nor if you're giving it to him in the passing game. Because it seemed like the only way the Texans could move the ball down the field on Kansas City's defense was by giving the ball to David Johnson. So until Houston's able to figure out their issues on the offensive side of football, for them to win games, they need to heavily rely on David Johnson. Now, you look at the Baltimore Ravens, you basically bullied the Cleveland Browns. I think that's a pretty good word to describe their victory against the Cleveland Browns. They bullied the Cleveland Browns. I mean, Cleveland couldn't do anything. They couldn't stop them on defense. They couldn't stop them offensively. And you look at the Houston Texans, their defense, I mean, we was fooled by Houston. I mean, after the first quarter of the game versus Kansas City, I was thinking that Houston's defense actually improved. Well, after the first quarter, Kansas City's offense just turned on the Jets, and I mean, there was no looking back from there. Houston had no answers. And I mean, Kansas City, I mean, they were really good running the football. And you can tell that Houston really misses DJ Reader. I mean, DJ Reader was one of the best run defenders in the NFL last year. And now he plays for Cincinnati, and we can now tell how important he was to the Texans' defensive line last season. Because Houston seemed like they couldn't stop the run for anything. And I mean, this secondary also wasn't great neither. I mean, Patrick Mahomes lit up this secondary. I mean, the only good takeaway from the Houston Texans' performance on defense was J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt looked phenomenal in this game. And if the Texans want to have any chance of winning this game versus the Ravens, he's going to have another good performance. And I mean, a lot of guys are going to have to step up on this Houston Texans defense if they want to beat Lamar Jackson and his Baltimore Ravens team. Because listen, if you had a hard time stopping the Kansas City Chiefs offense and you had a hard time stopping their run game, you're going to be in for a whole different animal against the Baltimore Ravens rushing attack. So, I mean, Houston, it doesn't look good for them going into this game. I'm just be honest with you. And when you look at the Baltimore Ravens are clicking on all cylinders, and it's only week 2 of the NFL season. And they already look unstoppable. So for the Ravens, if you want to win this game, I mean, you got to stop David Johnson, because David Johnson, as of right now, is the only reliable option that Houston has on offense. Now, you got Will Fuller. I know Will Fuller went for over 100 yards last week, and, you know, he was pretty much their best wide receiver. But other than that, I mean, you got Marlon Humphrey, and you also have Marcus Peters. So, I mean, both of those two cornerbacks should be able to handle Will Fuller. So, I mean, if you take away David Johnson, this Houston Texans offense doesn't really have much at all. And the offensive line isn't great neither. So, Baltimore should have a pretty good day getting pressure on Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson's probably going to be running for his career back there. And if you take away David Johnson, they're going to have a hard time moving the ball down the field, because the only reason Houston was able to move the ball down the field against Kansas City was when they were giving the ball to David Johnson. Then, if you're Houston, how do you stop this Ravens offense? Because I think the question in this game is not going to be how the Ravens can beat Houston, but how the Texans can beat Baltimore. Because really, all Baltimore really needs to do is make sure that they don't do anything dumb and they don't turn the football over, and they should win this game. But if you're Houston, it's a little bit more complicated. Because if you're Houston, you got to be able to stop this run game, which already is pretty tough because not only do you have to account for Lamar Jackson, but you also got to account for J.K. Dobbins and Ingram. Then also, how you going to start Mark Andrews? How you going to stop Hollywood Brown? It's just so many pieces that Houston has to be able to account for defensively if they want to be able to stop this Ravens offense. So, I mean, if you're Houston, to give your shot a chance, to give your team a chance, I mean, I think it all starts on the line of scrimmage. I mean, you got to have speed on the outside. You have to be able to contain Lamar Jackson. Keep him inside. Don't let him get to the outside. Don't let the Ravens run any outside runs. Make sure that if they run outside, you're able to contain those outside runs because that was really why Houston's defense struggled last week. They really struggled against Kansas City when it came to those outside runs. And I mean, they also struggled inside as well, but I think Kansas City did more damage running to the outside than they did running inside with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So, I mean, Houston has to be able to stop the run game, and I don't really have a lot of confidence that they're going to be able to do so. I mean, if they weren't able to stop Kansas City's rush attack, which Kansas City isn't even a running football team. I mean, I think Kansas City still likes to throw the football a lot, but I think the only reason why they ran the football that much was because Houston just couldn't stop it. So, I mean, you're looking at Kansas City, and you're like, hey, Houston can't stop the run. We might as well just keep running it down their throats. So, I mean, you struggle to stop the run for Kansas City. And now you got to face the Ravens, which probably is the best running football team in the National Football League. So if you're Houston, if I had to give you guys, or if I'm the head coach for Houston and I'm Bill O'Brien, I had to come up with a game plan of how to stop this Ravens team and how to win this game. It's going to start offensively by, one, giving the ball to David Johnson because he looks like he's the only guy on this Houston Texans offense as of right now that you can actually trust. So you got to find ways to get David Johnson the ball, line him out wide, hand him the football off, throw him some screen passes. I mean, you got to put David Johnson everywhere. David Johnson just needs to get the ball in his hands. David Johnson needs at least 25 to 30 touches in this game if Houston wants to have a chance of winning. Then, can this offensive line at least, protect Deshaun Watson just a little bit? Can Deshaun Watson just get a little bit of a pass protection in this game? Or whatever you want to call it? Like, can Houston's offensive line just only allow 2 sacks? I mean, it's sad that I have to give the Houston Texans offensive line a minimum sack goal, but it seems like that's what has to happen. It seems like the only way this offensive line, you can be satisfied with their play is by giving yourself more victories. So if Houston's offensive line can only allow 2 sacks in this game, I think this offense should have a better performance this game against the Baltimore Ravens than it did against Kansas City. So this offensive line needs to only allow 2 sacks. So the 2 keys on offense. The offensive line only has to allow 2 sacks. And David Johnson needs at least 25 to 30 catches or 25 to 30 touches in this game. Then on the defense side of the football, I mean, the defense is a little bit more harder to come up with a game plan on how to stop this Ravens offense than it is for the Houston Texans to figure out how they can have success on the offense. So, I mean, if you're trying to stop this Ravens offense, I mean, your best chance is, going to church, putting your hands on the Bible, saying a prayer with some holy oil on you, and saying, Dear Heavenly Father, can you please give us the keys to stopping this Ravens offense? Because I really don't think of a good solution of how the Texans really can. Because it's like, if you take away Mark Andrews, then you got to worry about Hollywood Brown. Then you take away Hollywood Brown, then you got to worry about Mark Andrews. So, I mean, your best bet really is to try to stop the pass game, key in on the pass game, try to stop the pass, try to double team Mark Andrews, do whatever you got to do to take Mark Andrews out of the game. Because if you had to choose between who you had to stop, Marquise Brown or Mark Andrews, I think the better option would be trying to key in to start Mark Andrews because Mark Andrews still is the primary target in this offense. So take away Mark Andrews and then go from there. So you take Mark Andrews out of the game, then you got to deal with Hollywood Brown. So take away Mark Andrews, then try to figure out how you can stop Hollywood Brown. Then once you do that, you got to be able to stop this rushing attack for Baltimore, which is easier said than done because they have a really good offensive line. And they have Lamar Jackson, who they pretty much have 4 halfbacks on their roster, really, that you have to account for. I mean, you got Ingram, you got Dobbins, and you also got to include Lamar Jackson as well. So, I mean, if you're Houston, I think you have to try to really, I don't really know what you can do to stop this Ravens rushing attack. So, I mean, if you're Houston, you got to be able to win up front. And the good thing is you got J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt looked really good in that game against the Kansas City Chiefs last week. So, I mean, I don't really know really what the Texans can do defensively to stop this Ravens offense. But I think the pretty obvious thing they can do is they can go to church and they can pray to God. I think that can help them. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, I don't really know what they can do to stop this Ravens offense. So, the team I'm taking to win this game, I'm taking Baltimore to win this game. I think Baltimore's going to dominate Houston. I think Baltimore wins this game 38-14 or 38-17 is going to be my final score prediction in this game. I think Houston probably could score 24 points in this game because, you know, in the fourth quarter, the game's probably going to be over. Baltimore is probably going to take the foot off the pedal a little bit. So I think Baltimore probably could win this game 38-24 because they allowed Houston to score some points in the fourth quarter with the game pretty much being all but decided. But I don't think this game is going to be all that close. Houston looks out of sorts. They can't move the ball on offense. The only way they moved the ball on offense last week against Kansas City was with David Johnson. So, I mean, if Houston wants to win this game, it all starts with David Johnson. They need to give the ball to David Johnson. Like I said, he needs 25 to 30 touches in this game. And this defense has to figure out a way to stop this Ravens offense, which is easier said than done. So, I'm taking Baltimore to win this game 38-24.